Hi, welcome to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm your host, Janice. I'm so glad to be back. I've been on a little vacation, just taking a little break, enjoying my life, and just putting into practice some of the things that I've learned. A lot of the things that I share with you and my clients, and that's what this YouTube channel is for, to help maybe point you in a direction that makes your life happier and to find that inner peace. I think for many years, I had been searching for that inner peace and, living in the mind. We all know that our thoughts are not very peaceful, and when we have a lot of things going on in our lives and in our environments and our families and the world, it can get even more complicated. So it's really important for us to seek this place within us that gives us some stability when everything else does not feel very stable. And the human mind and thoughts are certainly not the most stable place to kind of rest in. So that has been my quest always, is to try to find this inner peace. And I know a lot of other people are on the same mission, and it is a seeking for the truth. And as Rupert Spira, who I come to really love, I love his teachings and I would highly recommend it. There's like a love for truth. And I've always had great passion in trying to find the truth out about why so many people are so unhappy, why we're not enjoying our lives, why I didn't have inner peace, and, how we can help ourselves, basically. And with my own psychotherapy practice, it's really been such an instrumental help, because I feel like I have added that extra component of the spiritual component to my practice, and that really does help me understand myself better, and it also helps me understand my clients better. So some of the things that I share with them, I share with you. So let's just kind of get into it. The thing I want to talk about is the thing that I always love to talk about, is our thoughts, because as a psychotherapist, that's been kind of like my focus on people's thoughts. I listen to people's thoughts all day long. I listen to my own thoughts. I try to help people soothe their thoughts, and I try to help people, kind of feel better about themselves as well as myself. When I did have my own spiritual awakening, I could see that we're much more than our thoughts, we're much more than our brains and our bodies, and that was really good news for me. Because if you're just believing in your thoughts, it could be a little depressing, and I can see why people would feel depressed if they're just believing in their thoughts. So that's our challenge. And as a psychotherapist, it's called thought challenging, that you actually just challenge people's thoughts, because from another person's perspective, when people talk about what they think about themselves, we can clearly see how off they are, how critical their thoughts are, how harsh their thoughts are, how hurtful and painful their thoughts are. But yet we believe them. So we really have to help ourselves out of that. And that really has been my quest, is to try to help people out of this thinking that loops and loops and loops. The days change, the names and places change, but the thoughts seem to remain the same negative quality. And that's something that is not helping us in our lives, and did not help me in my life at all. When I did have this awakening, it brought me back more into myself. It's almost like the space in between your thoughts and feelings, the energy of who you are. So the person that's watching the thoughts go by and saying, wow, that's an interesting thought, or, taking some thoughts seriously and some not, and observing that, and then interacting with it. So if a thought comes by, your face, comes by, and you're looking at these thoughts, if you could, some of them we grab a hold of and we start to engage with and believe, and then from that we start acting in certain ways. So if the premise of our thoughts are wrong or off or misguided, we could see how people come to such faulty conclusions about themselves and other people. And I'll say to my clients all the time, isn't it great to be wrong about yourself? They'll go into a meeting anticipating the worst, saying they're going to do horrible and they're going to get fired and all these horrible things are going to happen. And then they come out of the meeting and it went great and everybody told them how wonderful they did. So I always say, well, aren't you glad you were wrong about yourself? And just think how many times you have proven yourself wrong, many, many times. So the thoughts that come in are really a conditioned perception of you. So if you look at it, that we all filter the world through our perceptions, and our perceptions start so young. They start when we're like, before we could even speak, and then they just layer upon layer upon layer each other. So it's like a tracks, putting down music tracks. The one round of thoughts, and then another round of thoughts, and then another round of thoughts, to the point that thoughts will just kind of come in and you really feel like it's you, and you really feel like it's part of you, instead of realizing that these thoughts are conditioned perceptions. How I perceive the world is very different than how you perceive the world. So why is that? If our thoughts were so right and true, how could my perception be so different than yours? And how can we both be in the same situation and take away different things? Our filters are each so unique and different. And we don't have to get rid of our filters, and we don't have to get rid of our thoughts, and we don't have to say that, we don't have to find a way to push them down or beat ourselves up for even having these kind of thoughts. The best thing that we can do is embrace them, and just to look at them and say, wow, look at what I think about myself. Look at the thoughts that come in, where this conditioned thought system that I have started when I was very, very young. And would we take the advice of a 5 or 6 year old? No, we would not. So I wouldn't. But basically, that's how old some of our perceptions are. 5, 6, 7 years old. So that gives us some idea of why it's important for us to challenge ourselves, and why it's important to come out of this belief system that what you think is true about you. And if you just listen to what some people say about themselves, you can clearly say, well, I don't think that's true about them. I can't believe they're that bad, or they think that they're that bad. And, and most of us, we're living in the past, or we're living in the future. We're not very present. So we're missing the opportunity to connect to this spiritual place within us, the soul place within us. And I used to really struggle with trying to figure out how to teach people how to get to this place within you. And after listening to Rupert Spira, a spiritual teacher, and he calls it the direct path, I realized I was making it a little too complicated. That it's not that complicated and it's not that hard, and everybody has access to it. I think because I did have a spiritual awakening, I faulty believed that maybe that's what everybody had to have, and that's not true. You can access your soul, you can access this consciousness, and Rupert talks about it, and so does Eckhart Tolle, as consciousness. So that's really where you're going to. So this consciousness lives outside of the body and outside of the mind, but lives within you, so that you have that stability that you can rest within. And also that other place that lives within you will help you to see, in a way, it helps you to see how off you are about your thoughts, because your soul energy, your consciousness is unlimited and is not made up with nothing but love. So that's the wonderful gift of no longer believing your thoughts or your feelings, because the more we engage in our thoughts and feelings, kind of we're going away from our authentic self and our soul. And again, it's not a bad thing, and I still do it to this day. I have not mastered, just completely not being in thought. But when I do engage in my thoughts, and I do go right back into that thinking that hurts me, I don't do it in the same way. I don't think I could ever go back into my thoughts and fully believe them. Where I used to 100% believe my thoughts. I'm, inferior to other people. I'm not as good as other people. All the things that you say to yourself, all these feelings of not good enough, and that other people are somehow better than you. Is kind of what we're taught. We're taught that pretty early on, that we have to improve upon ourselves, that we have to change ourselves. So I love this teaching by Rupert Spira, because basically what he says, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to change yourself. You don't have to fix yourself. There's no fixing. There's no changing. You are who you are, and who you are is perfect. And when I'm not in my thoughts and feelings, that's what I feel. And that's what I know. And so his teachings resonate with me so much. And I'm so blessed to have found him, because I'm always looking for teachers that speak the language, the new language that I've learned. The old language is my ego and thoughts and feelings. And the new language is this spiritual knowledge that we are more than our body. We're more than our thoughts. We're more than our feelings. We're made up of this consciousness that expands and wants to grow. And it's really just made up of love. And you'll know when you hit on it, because you feel better about yourself instantly. And you just start to know things that you didn't know before. And that's where the wisdom comes in. And that's where I decided to do this YouTube classes or, channel, because once you hit upon that wisdom for yourself, your life changes in amazing ways, because your soul consciousness, there's no limits, and there's no past, and there's no future. There's just now. And it's almost like being basks in love, and we all need that. We need that knowing, because of what the mind tricks us into believing about ourselves. So just for today, do this one simple thing. Every time a thought that comes into your mind that hurts you, that brings you some kind of pain, whether it's about you or somebody that you love, that you challenge it and just say, well, what if this wasn't true? What if this thought never came into my mind? What kind of a day would I have? Because all it takes is one thought. I see it with myself and my clients. It takes one thought to come in and ruin your day, and it's just kind of a shame, that we believe thoughts that are based on perceptions of such a young child, So really we want to really expand ourselves and go out of our box, and to really know that thoughts and feelings, although they're not wrong to have them, because the mind is like a computer and it just tapes everything, and it's a perception, it perceives things, and it's not wrong and it's not bad. And the mind does want to protect the body, so that's why it wants to keep it very safe. Like your mind, anytime somebody might ask you to do something, the mind might automatically say, no, I don't want to do it, because it wants to keep the body safe, but we are safe because we're eternal. So that's the premise that you will feel when you start connecting to this energy. It's hard to feel. You can't think into some of these knowings, because you really want to experience it for yourself. So when these thoughts come in, just watch them, and the thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. And that's another wonderful thing. We're not always in a depressed thought. We're not always in a happy thought. We're not always we don't live in these feelings all day long. So when you get a break from them, in between them, that's what you really want to observe yourself and notice yourself, and really pay attention to yourself. We're on automatic pilot so much of the time that we don't even realize that we're creating the day based on thoughts that are hurtful to you, that are painful. That if you didn't have these thoughts about yourself, how free you would feel. And you do feel free. What you wind up feeling is very similar to how you felt like when you were a child, before all these layers of bad thoughts came upon you, you start to feel very free and very at ease, and able to enjoy your day and more present and not so worried about the future, and not rehearsing, looking at the past and what's gone wrong. You kind of come out of that. So that's why it's really important to challenge any hurtful thought that comes in and just say, no, I'm not going to believe this just for today. Just for today, I'm not going to believe the same thing over and over again. There's themes. We have themes of thought, habits of thought, and you just want to say over and over, I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my feelings. I'm something much, much more. And that's what a lot of spiritual teachings do teach, like A Course in Miracles teaches that. And Byron Katie, she teaches that, and Rupert Spira teaches that. So there are many, many spiritual teachers that know that we're much, much more than our thoughts and our feelings. And again, thoughts and feelings aren't wrong. It's just such a small part of who you are and what you can become. So if you could just magically erase all of your thoughts and feelings about yourself, just start with yourself. How would your day go? What would you do differently? If you could just be at ease. So when you really come out of that, and when you really realize, wow, I have been so wrong about myself. My thoughts and feelings are so off. And when I'm in the habit of perceiving the same thing all the time, people don't like me, or I can't do this, or whatever it is that I've been saying to myself for the past 50 years, then you really are free. You're free. And not only are you free, you're free to really go into this energy, this other energy that they call consciousness, soul consciousness, whatever you want to call it, that is made up of nothing but love. And when you are in that kind of energy, you know it, you feel it, and really that's all you want to share. So, when you realize that you're love, that's all you want to do is share your love. So when the thoughts and feelings come in that try to take it away, you don't pay attention to it as much. And then they do, in time, they do slow down, and they do stop. Sometimes I can catch myself a whole day of not really thinking too much, and that's huge for me. That's a huge, huge change. So I hope you consider, really realizing how limiting the mind is, that it's an old computer, and it's just going to keep trying to keep you small and limited, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not wrong for doing that. It's just unnecessary, and it's really painful. I think it's so painful for people to believe these horrible things that come into their mind, and because horrible things have been said to people because they were in their bad place, and so people take them in and really believe them and don't let them go and replay them over and over again. You just want to keep challenging that and saying, well, if I really didn't believe any of this about myself, how would I feel today? What would I be doing differently? And you just move into this other place within yourself that you can access, all this love and knowledge and knowing, and it just changes you, and it changes how you are with the world. It changes how you are with people. It makes you an extremely loving and compassionate person. And it doesn't mean that you're always that way 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your thoughts will get you, but you just move back out of them again, and you just keep practicing that, and you keep knowing that. The more time you spend in this other energy that lives within you, the more you'll see this kind of reality. So I hope that helps for today. I did want to share some books that I find really helpful with my clients, and I thought maybe you would like to get. This book I love, and I'm going to put it in the comments, the name, because I always mess up people's names. So this book is wonderful. It's very thin because none of us really like to read anymore. And he talks all about how when we're born, our mind just is like a tape recorder, and from the taping is where our thoughts get its information, and how to change it, and how to change negative self-talk. And again, it's much easier to change something when you don't believe in it. If you believe in something, it's harder to change it. So when you move back into the soul energy, when you move back within, you really know that it's not true. And then this becomes very, very easy to do. As always, I would always recommend you getting Byron Katie's work stuff, because she's really helps and helping us to see how hurtful our perceptions are, and how off our perceptions are, and how we're living in our own little worlds, especially now, people are thinking things about us and saying things about us. I think with social media, although it's great, we get inundated all at once, and it can feel very, very overwhelming. So turn off the social media, stay off of Facebook, do funner things. TikTok is funnier, stick with that. Try to stay away from the news, because it's inundating. A lot of sad things are going on in this world, but this is the age and the time where we get hit with it all within 5 minutes. I could pick up my phone and look at my news feed and literally read like that 10 people died. And, that's been happening throughout the ages. But to sit there and read it within 5 minutes of waking up is just inundating to our nervous system. So we're overtaxing our nervous system. So that's the therapist part in me, is to just say, please, try not to do that to yourself. I notice that when I go on my newsfeed, it's just very depressing and upsetting, and it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming. And also, if you want to start someplace with, my book is still available on Amazon, The Forgotten Friend. It's very easy. Again, it's thin, like his book. Like, we know we don't want to spend that much time reading. People just want to, quickly learn what they need to learn so that they can feel better. So this is the route to go. So I hope that you can challenge your thoughts today, and just remind yourself, if you didn't have this thought coming in telling you whatever it's telling you about you or somebody else, how would you feel? And that is a gift that you can give yourself. And once you do that, once you realize that thoughts and feelings are a beautiful part of the body, and they're not wrong, then you can kind of even go back into them and really get to know them, like, oh wow, this is how I really felt about myself. So you don't have to feel so scared to go back into your thoughts and feelings, because they're not true. It's almost like watching a good movie. You can sit there and watch a good movie and cry with it, and really enjoy it, because it's not you. It's not personally happening to you. But our thoughts and feelings feel like, even though if it's future-based or past-based, feels like it's actually happening to us. And it's really like we're just watching another movie in our mind. And what we create in our mind is not true. It's only a very small part of you. So when you go into the space that's in between your thoughts and feelings, when you go into this beautiful space, you'll know you hit it, because it's the space that when you're doing something that you love to do and you're no longer thinking, or you're having a great conversation with someone and you're not thinking, that's the space where your consciousness and your soul is. You are that observer that's watching the thoughts and the feelings and the interactions and hearing yourself talking to yourself. You're that observer. But really go into that observer and say, well, who am I? Who am I really? Who is this person? And give that person some attention, because that's what we're all longing for, is that attention and that love. And we're trying to seek it from outside ourselves when it's located within ourselves. So again, if you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. Feel free to email me at janicesmart40@yahoo.com. I love your questions, and I do base a lot of my talks. I try to incorporate, some of your questions in these talks. So feel free to ask away. I love to do that. I'll even read some during the show if you would like that, and answer them. because this is just a beautiful way to live. And the more we can share this with each other, the better off we all are. So have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.